Yeah, it's beautiful. It's life. It's the play of creation. It's beautiful. It's also painful, and it's everything. Its manifestation is such a miracle, such a joy, including the pain and the apparent suffering. It's like, what a miracle that there is this, that there is form, that there is beingness, that there is a universe, planets, humanity, animals, plant. It's wow, such a miracle. It's such a miracle. It's really so miraculous, and it's just speechless. And that there can be peace at the same time as creation, as manifestation, as pain. That one doesn't take away the other. That there can be freedom with bodies and limitations of being a human being. Yes. Am I only? Are we only? No. So it goes both ways. Being human, being more than human. But you could play with the words and say to have a human being. It just becomes a bit it becomes a bit silly. But it's not necessary to really untangle that too much. But yes, um, to not deny our humanity and not limit ourselves to just being a human being. And there aren't two things that we are. Because speaking about this in this way makes one think, well, I'm human and something else. That's another thing. It's not like that. I could put a lot more words to that, but I think it's just gonna be confusing, and um, it's very, very unnameable. But definitely to be human, but not only. Well, the human being in the convention at the level of reality that we talk about a human being is separate. But That's where it's language, right? And it's somewhat appropriate to say at that level each human being is in some sense separate and independent, but not completely, or not at a deeper level. And then also, you're asking me, but are you human? You could say what I am is also appearing, and this I'm not saying specifically to me, it's something that applies to everybody. What we are also appears as human form, is appearing at a level, or at a in manifestation also as human form. But it's really hard to, it can be very misleading and confusing to say much about it. It's better to discover it the other way around rather than try to name it, because it's the unnameable. And so it's better to discover it in the sense of the process of neti neti, which is I am not this, I'm not that, I'm not this, I'm not that. And then you start to realize what is in that deeper. My internet just is saying it's breaking up. But we start to recognize or realize what is that source, which is what we are. But it's not a source, it's not a thing. It's not nameable. You can't describe it. But then there could be a immersing into being human. Something gets liberated. There is a freedom that can be known, and once it's known, it's recognized as something. It was always this way. And so that's why it's not described as achieved or attained, or it's described as realized, recognized. Because it's also described as remembered. It's there already. And back to what you were describing, I think the best direction is to see how what it is to be human is an aspect of what you're experiencing. Everything that you know about being human is being known and experienced. So you cannot be only that. It's appearing. This is a way in which it's pointed to. It's appearing in your awareness. So we conventionally experience a distortion, which is I am a human being that has consciousness inside of it. And the reality of our experience is that there is an empty seeing, an empty knowing, within which there is appearing a human in a world. It's a very, what I'm talking about is a very big leap of an undoing of an interpretation, and it can bring up a lot of thought arguments and resistance. Yeah, we we make an interpretation or an assumption that it emerges from the body. And that happens because of something natural in how this organism is develops and evolves, but there's also interpretation. It's the way in which we're educated. Yeah, and it's all based on assumptions. There's no proof. And the way you can play with, if you want to, knowing that you're a very smart, rational person, you can play with this intellectually to kind of find ways in which to debunk the beliefs. So, for example, I can present to you a thought experiment, which is it possible that you are a creature in another world with 5 arms who has gone into and been submerged into a virtual reality? So only your awareness remains, your memory is paused. And in that virtual reality, you appear as a baby and you grow up. I'm not saying that's the truth. I'm just saying you cannot be sure that's not happening. You cannot find any evidence for that. This has been, I'm not inventing this myself. This is the basis of many fiction and philosophical explorations, and the Matrix movie is based on that. The simulation theories of consciousness. It's the point of it is not which is the truth. The point of it is, for me, to see that you can't really know. And it's not just for a philosophical entertainment. There is actually something really profound when contemplating that. There is a possibility of an unimaginable freedom and peace. Unimaginable. Yeah, what happens is we taste what I'm talking about. We all know it because we are that. We've come from that. And so if you're here in this little group, you've tasted, you've remembered that to some degree, and you're just trying to find a way to remember that more deeply, to know it more deeply, to make it more just fully what is your reality. And so what I would say is trust those sensations, those moments of resonance, or you're calling glimpsing. Trust it because there is something possible. And it's very close. It's always here now. And I think this human body mind is kind of hardwired for this process to happen. It's part of the evolution. Yeah. Individually and collectively. But there's a process that is can be very difficult or intense, which I always say it'll likely bring up a lot of fear and pain. Some people very rarely didn't go through a lot of fear and pain, but I think it's very rare. And for some, it's shorter and faster, and for others, less. But it's very, very worthwhile. You didn't know me that well, but I suffered so much. And it was so, things were so hard for me. And what my life is completely unimaginable to my previous experience. Completely unimaginable. The level of peace and well-being that's permanent is just completely, it's incomprehensible. And I know how possible and how close it is. It's so much beauty, so much lovingness. That's me cheering you on.